I'm now pleased to introduce our first speaker of the day, Ms. Susan Orsega, Deputy Assistant Secretary of Defense, Health Service Policies and Oversight. Please welcome to the stage, Ms. Orsega.
All right, well, thank you very much, Master Sergeant Thomas. It was actually pretty cool to, sorry, I know you were listening for all those 80s music lovers in the house, like Steely Dan. I've never had to stop Steely Dan for a concert to do a presentation. So really a big thank you. I'm sure they may have said it before, but just acknowledge all of the team in the back and back here. It's a really behind the scenes sort of architecture to make sure all of us speakers are able to give you what you need to hear. So I just wanted to thank them for all their work. So again, good morning. Mr. Flanders, really appreciate this. I've never been to DHITS. I'm probably like the third person now that said this. And what an intellectual firepower of folks, much smarter than myself, who are all in the seats. And for those who maybe are sort of working their way here, really applaud your effort to bring that grassroots as you look across the entire agenda. That's an art and science, and I just want to formally applaud you for the work that you've done. And senior leaders, my colleagues, flag officers, general officers, all the officers enlisted from all the services, really exciting to be here. So I don't know how many of you know about health services policy and oversight in health affairs, but we are really interesting in terms of all of our portfolio that we touch. It's all about our warrior health. We are one of the offices under health affairs, and we've got all those 50 DODs we're responsible for that really come to light with all of the work that you all do to contribute. And we have 12 portfolios that touch anything that really resides in the warrior health space. And part of that is our AI and health IT and data portfolio. So I do want to acknowledge two of my colleagues that are here. I know Dr. Patrice Robinson-Haley is somewhere out there in the audience, and also Colonel Neves Robbins is also a new member of our team. Just to again acknowledge their work. They make all the work happen, and I'm really blessed by the team that I have. So today, we're going to take a journey, and I'm really, yesterday in preparation for today, I was counting how many times I heard two themes. One, fast pace. And two, I heard a theme about governance. Governance really is not like a cool topic, but I appreciated, Admiral Farrell, your comment about the importance, Dr. Caban, about the importance of governance, and even Dr. Deal. And so we're going to talk about where we are, right? And we're going to talk about lessons, those lessons that are in industry. All of you are in industry that are attending here, and how you sort of work with us in terms of moving forward. How we have to harness the AI in the Department of Defense, particularly in the MHS. We're going to do a right turn and talk about governance and what we're doing in terms of our approaches. And then what my perspective is, what health affairs perspective is in terms of that future state. One thing I am going to talk also about is our MHS Digital Policy Council. And that council, which many of you are in the audience, a big appreciation to all of you who are part of this council. And really, that's really the engine behind what we're embarking in MHS, and we'll be doing that over the next upcoming years. So spending time with you really is really fun. It's enlightening. Unfortunately, actually, I have to get back on the plane and go back. But it really confirms my confidence in our ability to take this systems approach to really look at fulfilling our mission and the MHS mission. And it's strengthened the meetings that I've attended and certainly over the course of yesterday really has strengthened my belief. And as my colleagues have all talked about, the importance of that success that's going to rely on collaboration, looking at that steadfast focus on our warfighters and the beneficiaries. It really is going to provide us that ability to guide ourselves and to ensure that we are medically ready, focused teams. We can't do that without all of us really leaning in. Certainly, Health Affairs relies on the Defense Health Agency, Dr. Smith, Dr. Deal, and the rest of the team. And certainly, that is that catalytic convener to execute. So we set really those policies, but ensure and work collectively and collaboratively with them. So as I mentioned, I'm going to talk to you about this Digital Policy Council, and hopefully you won't be leaving with if you scratch in your heads now, you won't be leaving with that. Digital transformation, as you've heard, is obviously an area of a focus in MHS. Dr. Ferreira has asked me in my role to move us and catch us up to speed and move us forward, looking at all the tools that we have and focus on that. So I'll dive deeper into the importance of this and the criticality. So when I graduated from USU, which was a little while ago, there was microfiche. I'm sure there's people who are like, what the heck is microfiche? But, and now of course, there's Meta, and it's totally different. But the one thing that hasn't changed is how we all look within ourselves, and that we look within ourselves to guide our future. And we do that by looking at what our strengths are, to really lean in to ensure that we have this digitally focused MHS. It's certainly, as I'm going to talk to you over the next couple minutes, I want you to reflect on where you are, where you've been, where you are, and then where we're going in that role. We've got to be prepared for that ever-changing warfare ecosystem, and it is imperative to be integrating and to be interoperable in those digital health spaces so that we have those tools from either the battlefield to the bedside. So where are we, right? So in preparation, I actually pulled 2017's DHITS conference theme. Maybe you all were here. I know Mr. Flanders was here. And the theme was, I'm not going to put you on the spot to tell us what the theme was, but it was one team, one mission, creating our future together. And so when you think about that at the time, healthcare, AI adoption was relatively low. Certainly in health sectors specifically. But conversely for the tech giants, AI investment was 3 times what it had been in 2013. There was the introduction of FaceTime and Siri and Google Play and Alexa were kind of becoming part of your homes and hands. And autonomous cars were really they were in those neighborhoods. If you fast forward today, the growth of AI is at record pace. It's speeding, across all those sectors. And as I think about it, I was a runner in college, and when I think about the AI speed that we have to get to, it's like running a 4-minute mile. But it's running a 4-minute mile right now in sandals. I don't know if you've ever done that, but it's really tough to do if you're running after your children. But it's fast, right? But it's potentially risky without having that strong governance running shoes. Now, you can do it, but you're going to do it, but it's risky. And so for us, the stakes are higher for those 4-minute mile right? And the scale of the challenges, the demand, the clear priority settings, and the policies, we have to be focusing ourselves strategically, enhancing the operational efficiencies, with driving those patient outcomes, and then certainly looking at the readiness of our force. This is a really, a lot of stuff you got to put in your rucksack to run that 4-minute mile. Companies, if you think about companies, we've got a lot of lessons that we can learn from them as we're embarking on our digital efforts. They are certainly elevating all of those governance. And one of the things, though, that we could learn from them are some of the slippage, some of the challenges that they've had. Particularly, if you look at AI right now, it's recognized across the sectors as the one single element that's most correlated with success of an organization. 62% of IT decision makers say that their organization has some great ideas, right? But they struggle to execute them. And unfortunately, about 1/3 of those have fully been able to deploy those AI projects, according to CDW's report in 2025. I'm going to highlight 2 examples, one that we could learn from as an opportunity to improve, and one as a good story. The first one is in 2015. IBM launched the Watson for Oncology. I don't know if any of you know about this initiative. As really as part of its health initiative, they were looking at personalized precision medicine, really important stuff, right? Tailoring that treatment to that condition. And Watson for Oncology analyzed enormous volumes of medical literature, right? And they just sort of culled through the literature really quickly. And what the intent was, and they pulled that clinical trial data together and then coupled it with the treatment guidelines. And really the intent behind that was to then put in a pretty box for that patient what their treatment would be. I mean, the thought of it actually sounds really innovative and really impressive. But despite those early promises that they felt, the platform didn't perform as well as they thought. They had failure to recognize patterns in patient records. And sometimes it even provoked potentially unsafe or irrelevant cancer treatment recommendations. And the key point really for all of us is that they couldn't, at the end of the day, the clinician, the oncologist could not rely on that piece of tool, that AI tool, to make clear decision-making decisions. And it was challenging. So that, had they had some, as they report, strong, like the governance and the tools and the infrastructure and the ability to audit it as they were moving through that, they could have come out better. We also see that AI's powerful and positive impacts. Even before COVID-19, the pandemic, the Cleveland Clinic published a report. It was about 20 pages, and it was called the Digital Health Playbook. Really cool, right? It was a document to provide that guidance, much like a cookbook, and it basically carves out and identifies everyone's role and what they can play in terms of from everything from telehealth procedures to how to access digital platforms. And it still to this day provides really a guidance for all of the Cleveland Clinic in how they approach an AI-powered system. A good walk away for us as we look at harnessing AI. I think on the screen you've got a timeline, right? Because I can't sort of see, as Mr. Flanders told me yesterday, it's difficult. If you don't, slide 1, please. So, for us at Health Affairs, we sort of started to think about what our lessons were learning, what we were learning from out in industry and our approach to AI. Long actually before I came on board, there was some work underway that really started to explore how to approach a more coordinated effort. And as you move through that timeline, if I can just focus and take back us to last year. So in the spring of 2024, we saw a lot of significant progress. There was a lot of cross-fertilization of idea sharing. You know, we were talking more with like CDAO, even having, you know, conversations to try to unpack what it meant to have, you know, digital efforts across health affairs with our DHA partners, PODMs, and all of our collaborators, the services, to try to understand where our efforts were going to focus. We did, in fact, in 2017-18, there was a focus on the inventory. We did another inventory in 2024, and that really helped us to understand what our investment was and what we were doing. And discussions were held underway at, you know, large meetings like this. In the summer of 2024, there was a published digital health transformation strategy. So that strategy is sort of similar to the Cleveland Clinic, really provided that plan to integrate the digital health and the AI technologies. It's not intended to be an operational plan. It's not to be intended to you know, be a prescriber or drive the way we do, and my colleagues in DHA do that execution, but really try to broad brush overview of the strategy that we could all look at. In the fall, we did a planning guidance memo that sort of committed ourselves on paper about what we were going to do. And those discussions, I remember clearly one of the key priorities or key areas that we were going to focus on were really around a digital health council, right? So next slide, please. So a digital policy council is really needed, and why it's needed, and that's sort of visually to give you, for those who are organizational structure junkies, that's really intended to give you a where we are in the chart. And what it's really to do, what I say is three things. One team approach, right? So that means the council, who may be from the Air Force, is going to bring up a topic relevant to the Air Force, but that has to be kind of considered as we look at across services, and even in all of the others that touch the work that around AI. So it's a one-team approach. We also wanted to make sure we're looking at redundancies. We want to, you know, we look at whether we're, you know, capitalize on whether maybe one area, one has a tool that they're underway focused on cardiovascular surveillance. At the same time, you've got another maybe researcher over at USU is doing the same thing. So it's really intended to ensure that we take a look at, not pull down the redundancies and do a, you know, fist fight to determine who's going to push out front, but it's intended to look at, can we capitalize and come to a focus effort. And so as said yesterday, I think by my DHA colleagues, around, you know, preventing us from working in silos. And then thirdly, it's intended to be what I always like to say is like the downwards and upwards synergizing and cascading downwards. So our direction comes from the Department of Defense, and the priorities that exist through health of PNR and health affairs downward. At the same time, we want to make sure we have that horizontal synergy across all the services. So in spring of 2025, we launched the Policy Council. It is by far the coolest council, so just so you all know in terms of other councils. And do want to acknowledge there are a couple people that I know have really been leaning in, as I mentioned, my colleagues at HISPO, but also we've had a couple of folks who've rolled up their sleeves and worked on some initiatives to, again, look at all those tools I talked about. about minimizing the redundancies. And so we took a look at, I said we have two tasks really that we want to run, again, running that 4-minute mile. Two things. We wanted to, one, look at the inventory. I mentioned there was an inventory in 2018. We found 96 AI projects, and then again another in 2024, and then we had 119, and then 111 in 2025, right? And so, so we wanted to make sure we did an inventory to see what was out there on the horizon. But this year, I challenged the team and said, let's add in, financial data information to, again, to illustrate, how much money are we really putting on the table to commit ourselves to the AI inventory. A big sort of call out and highlight and focus, Dr. Caban, wherever you are, a big applaud to you, that work that you did with Colonel Baez, I think, that both of you really focused in on those efforts to ensure that we're zeroing in. And so we're going to hear, we're going to work through the governance, and then we'll hear more about those inventories. But essentially, just to give you a little bit of a prelude, the work was, we've been able to sift it out into a few categories, just to, again, top of mind to have you all think about. It's around force health protection, so that's about all of the AI tools that are ensuring warfighters and their beneficiaries get their tools in their rucksack. It's about health support services, so that really speaks to that clinical decision making. And then third, the business, and that's where that financial piece comes in, that business of healthcare. So it will go through our process that we have through governance. It wouldn't be good if I decided not to go through the governance, since I've been talking about governance. So we're going to go through the governance, and it will go through the Council of Colonels and Captains, through the DMAC and the SMAC if needed, to really ensure that everybody understands and is on board. And what we did really is, what we're doing is really guiding and engaging the AI in MHS. And we took a real iterative approach to make sure that we put these tools in particular bins, again, to really understand the magnitude of them. And we also wanted to ensure, and we're still doing this, sort of listening to the field. We'll do this all the way through the council's initial chomp at this first task, because we want to make sure that it's relevant, because if it's not relevant, then it's just a piece of paper that we've placed in the memo archives. And we want to go where there's movement, where there's sort of effort and momentum. And we have that right now with the department being behind the MHS, and really the hope is to guide and push that alignment. So the second working group that has been well underway is an effort, again, that we, Lieutenant Colonel, I think McKesson is around here somewhere, and Dr. Bader, I don't know if I've seen her, but they have the lead on looking at digital priorities. And so their working group have found 5 themes, which are themes that you've heard and will see through the course of this conference. But they're lock and step with organizations. It's like data interoperability, AI adoption, enhancing, looking at the enterprise data quality, and then ensuring that we have a proficient workforce that is focused in digital priorities, and then ensuring that we're streamlining that business of healthcare process. So those will get funneled through. Really exciting about the work that we took on. And so the Digital Policy Council will do that, and then we're going to start to pivot and focus on how do we implement these priorities, what work's already underway, and then where I think it will be really exciting is to see and hear from industry and also hear from those out in the MHS and our services to hear the experiences. And get some speakers in that can talk to us about techniques and tools that we ought to be thinking about. So part of this digital transformation journey really includes the collaborations with the VA, ensuring that we work across those lines, collaborations with all the other partners that I mentioned, so that we have that data-informed approach. This past June, I was very pleased and proud to attend the 63rd Plenary of the NATO conference, the Committee on the Chiefs of Military Medical Services, COMETS. And the meeting really examined in an eye-popping way the digital transformation that looked at biotech and decision support capabilities in those multi-domain operations. So it really made me cognizant of the importance of being leaned in and listening and leading to ensure that we're on pace with that. And so we've got to be thinking about this on the horizon. Next slide, please. So I got this. So we talked about the 4-minute mile, right? Talked about don't use sandals. But now, so really to think about AI and the governance, and what really the Digital Health Policy Council is doing is in essence, what you can do out in your setting is what I propose is like this 4-minute mile running shoe governance structure. And so I hope everybody knows like a 4-minute mile is a really fast pace. I think it's irrespective of whether you're male or female. So I offer you this thought. So the shoelaces. The shoelaces really should be that policy, that attempt, that process. So you've got to have the right shoelaces in place so that you can tie that AI governance and that AI can flag those issues. You got to have the right platform, right? So if you don't have a good platform, you're either the shoe will crack. For those of you who were like whites, I don't see any Navy or Public Health Service officers. The white shoes will just disintegrate like a hot minute, usually at conferences, unprovoked. So you got to have the right platform in place, right? So you have to have those audit platforms, right? Audit platforms, data integrity. You have to have that in place. You have to have the right arch support. This is the Digital Policy Council, that arch support, the right people in the room. In fact, we challenge ourselves all the time to say, should we be making sure we're bringing others that maybe are non-clinical, those scientists, those clinicians, the data scientists, the AI folks, those representatives who really have that subject matter expertise to give that right arch support. The soul, probably by far one of the most important things. You've got to have that right infrastructure. You heard Mr. Flanders, Mr. Hines talk about that. That infrastructure is that strategic imperative. And then finally, the training, because you got to have a good training plan, right, to run that 4-minute mile. And so that ensures that all the staff, all of us are trained to properly use those AI tools and report the challenges. Next slide. So the future of AI really offers an opportunity for advancements in healthcare, and really to benefit from that technology, we've got to have those right tools, as I've mentioned. In 2024, there was a TED Talk done by Helen Toner, and she started to talk about the importance of using technology and governing technology. And she actually asked the audience, how do we govern technology when we struggle to understand and predict? How do we govern technology when we struggle to understand and predict? It was a really provocative question. And it's like, how much do we know about AI? And do we know all of its capabilities? Even though we don't have all those answers, it's going to make us uncomfortable. And let's face it. But we've got to put our feet on the floor and really forge a path forward. And certainly for us in the Department of Defense, the stakes are really much higher. She offered 3 points. Don't be intimidated, right? Be part of the solution. MHS Digital Policy Council is one way. Focus on adaptability. Maintaining that AI is like driving down this like windy road, and then you got to pull over sometimes, and you also can't take your eyes off the road. So you got to steer a little bit. So we've got to be flexible. We have to be adaptable. And the third one is lean in, report incidents, because even if you don't think it's a nothing, it could be actually a something. You got to leave it to all the subject matter experts to give us that, give the information. But reporting is really, and if you listen to the reference I made to the Watson, that's a really good example. Obviously, industry is taking note moving forward. We've got to make sure that we do that. We have a unique opportunity to confront the challenges that lay ahead and to take that bold initiative. It's clear, AI is here. We need to steer it, since we are one of the largest and most complex, and as Dr. Ferrer tells me often, the only health system that has to be ready to go to war. The stakes are high. We have to be clear-eyed, and sharpen our focus. We have to be prepared for that ever-changing ecosystem, either homeland or abroad. And it's our battle cry to ensure that we have those right tools so that we have the right policies and processes and standards in place. And so if we get that call in the middle of the night, that we feel really comfortable and confident that our tools are reliable and that they're laser precise for that decision in that moment, because it will be a decision in a moment. And what was said in 2017's DHITS is really still true today, that team approach. And that with that 2017 mindset, we're now in the 2025 empowering care, enhancing readiness, and harnessing that health IT environment. It's up to us, though, to really maximize that and to best serve our service members, the veterans, and their families. And without your talent and dedication and fulfilling our sacred mission, we can't run that 4-minute mile. So thank you for what you've done, what you're doing today, and what you will continue to do to serve this incredible country and to support all of us in the Department of Defense. Thanks so much.